security analyst Jim Walsh is joining us now from Massachusetts. He's a research associate at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Security Studies program. Always a pleasure having you on the broadcast. This resolution passes unanimously. The world body speaking definitively with one voice. Will it make a difference?
Well, Mike, on the one hand, I want to offer my congratulations to the diplomats. It is fair to say that this is the toughest North Korea sanctions resolution ever passed by the UN. But unfortunately, I also have to add, the last time they passed a sanctions resolution, that was the toughest one ever passed. And the time before that, when they passed one, that was the toughest one that was ever passed. And I'm a little skeptical going forward whether this is really going to matter very much, because none of the others mattered very much. And unfortunately, as is reflected in the resolution when you read it, on the one hand, it seeks to sort of punish North Korean elites and stop the weapons program. On the other hand, it does not, it says specifically, it doesn't want to do anything that would hurt the North Korean people in a humanitarian sort of way. China would definitely object to that. And so you end up with something that's sort of mushy and then comes down to enforcement. And as the UN panel on experts recently reported, you can write all the resolutions you want, but if people on the ground aren't enforcing them, then they don't add up to very much.
Well, and you said you went back just a couple. It's been, as Leland pointed out, 5 rounds of sanctions.
Right.
You kind of suspect there'll be a 6th, I guess. And it doesn't seem to have much of an impact. So what is the answer? Is it enforcement, and how do you enforce something like this?
Well, I think it is enforcement, and obviously here China looms large. North Korea enjoys a great benefit of geography that insulates it from a lot of sanctions, unlike Iran, which dealt with business all over the world. But North Korea shares a border with China. China, until recently, has been the fastest growing economy in the world. If you just stood there and didn't do anything, you would do okay. So I think China has to play a role. But China's not going to cut its throat. It's not going to do something that's going to lead to a collapsed North Korea on its border. So what you have to do, and you speak right to it into your question, you have to give the Chinese and others in the region a reason to want to do it where they benefit, where they get something out of it, and where they don't look like they're confronting North Korea in a way that will make problems worse. So for China, that means extending that anti-corruption campaign, going after both tigers and flies who engage in corruption. Well, they can focus some of that on private firms that do business with North Korea. And there are other steps they could take in terms of compliance, building a culture of corporate compliance in the banking segment and in import-export, which would benefit China. That would be good for Chinese business, good for the Chinese economy. But it would also have the effect of making it more difficult for North Korea to do procurement in high-tech weapons.
But I think you kind of hit on something, this delicate balancing act, because the last thing in the world China wants is instability and chaos in the DPRK, because it does impact them.
Exactly, and that's why you see a lot of headlines today, and you'll see them this week, about the sections in the resolution that talk about coal and iron ore. And you heard a U.S. diplomat mention that earlier in one of your packages. The truth is that is not going to be enforced, because if China were to cut off coal and iron exports from North Korea would go into a tailspin. And as it is, commodity prices are already down. So that's why there's language, again, if you read it, that says, do this, do that, do this, do that, except if it threatens the humanitarian situation in North Korea. So I don't think you're going to see China lift a finger on iron ore and sort of the big parts of the North Korean economy where if you jerk them, something bad could happen. What they can do are some of these smaller targeted things that go directly after companies that are doing business in weapons of mass destruction.
Jim, quickly, if you can, because we don't have much time, how's the DPRK going to react to all of this?
Well, I think we've had lots of practice with this. There's going to be a lot of shouting and indignation, and you're trampling on our sovereignty, and we're going to attack you. So I don't expect North Korea to do very much other than issue verbal reprimands.
Jim Walsh joining us from the state of Massachusetts. Thanks so much.